sort of on a related note, in your memoir, which I just have to say, it's so beautifully written. It's so captivating. It's like hard to put down.
So thank you.
And you share so like openly from your heart. So thank you for creating such a beautiful piece of art and putting that in the world. But in your book, you talk about sort of this feeling of fracture from the sense that the two people who brought you into the world didn't make you a priority. And you know, sometimes when I think of you, I think of Red Table Talk, and I think of you and your daughter and your mother sitting together at the table. And I'm wondering, like, how has your relationship with your mom evolved, and to the degree that there's been healing, what has made that possible?
Well, you know, my mom decided to get clean when I was 20. And I do believe the most powerful healing between us began when I had my own children. Started with Jaden. You know, when I was pregnant, my mother was an OBGYN nurse. She delivered babies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so while I was pregnant, and once I had Jaden, she came and she stayed with me, and she helped me with my firstborn because I had no idea what I was doing. And I just watched my mom give the kind of care, attention, and love that I felt like I didn't receive. My mother loved me. I just didn't get that kind of attention and care. You know what I mean? And so watching her love my kids the way that she has, that the old, you know, the Adrienne of yesterday just evaporated because she changed so much.
Wow.
I grew up with a different, the version of Adrienne that was less true of the Adrienne that she really is. So I got to really know who my mother is through how she was by my side through helping me raise my kids. So I got that really healed that part of me, and I really got to see the distinction between, you know, the Adrienne that was addicted to heroin was that was not the true version of herself.
I think that's a really beautiful example of like redemption, or, you know, like evolution. And I wanted to ask you about your relationship with your daughter, because similarly to what Nava said, like when I watch Red Table Talk, it seems from what I've observed, you have such an open, close relationship. I'm a few weeks away from having my first child, a daughter. And yeah, thank you. And I have been wondering how to create that kind of openness between a mother and daughter, or between a mother and any child, while maintaining an ability to sort of guide them. Because I would think that to create that openness, to allow your child to be so open with you, you need to withhold judgment. And I wonder how you balance that and being able to still guide them and give them wisdom. What have you learned about that?
So with Willow, the first thing I thought about was, what are the experiences I want to help her not have or soften, right? And I was like, and I also thought about, what did I need, like at different stages of her life? Like when I looked at different stages of Willow's journey, I was like, what did I need at that time, right? And I'm like, don't think about what the parenting playbook is. Look at what she needs, and think about where you were at that stage.
Yeah.
And so that was the balance of me learning how to create a friendship, a partnership with Willow, because young people need parents as their partners at times, right? And also in recognizing when those like life or death situations come up where as a parent you put up a boundary, right? And so that's what I did with Willow. I wanted to be a partner to her while she was growing up, but also recognizing when, you know, she wants to be out at a party until 12 o'clock and she's 15. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing out there healthy for you. You know what I mean? And really having to, and that's what I was just have to say, this is where you got to trust me, because I've been on this earth longer than you, but that's also why I shared experiences of mine with her, so that she would understand I'm not just talking out the side of my neck, right? And so when we reconcile our journey and we don't have self-judgment about our journey, we don't have self-judgment about the journey of our daughters specifically, because they are direct mirrors of us. And I think that sometimes I think mother-daughter relationships that have a lot of conflict within them is because there are a lot of moms that see themselves in their daughters and they just haven't reconciled that particular aspect.
Totally.
You know,
that really resonates with me. I have a 3-year-old and a 14-year-old stepson. You know, and I know that you have Trey, who's like your, as you say, kind of like your bonus child, your first. Of course, it is different. You know, I mean, I don't know the particulars of how his biological mother is or isn't in his life, but can you maybe, if you're open to sharing, because there are a lot of step families out there, and each one can have a bit of a different configuration. Can you talk about maybe were you around for Trey's like coming of age years, adolescent years?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, he has a fantastic mom, right? And so one of the things, he was another one I had to look at and go, because I was a stepdaughter.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right? And so I looked at my experience and I was like, what don't I want him to experience in this experience with me? You know, I was like, first thing I got to do is that I have to develop a relationship with the most important, like one of the most important people in his life, and that's his mother. How can I say that I love him and I want the best for him if I'm in conflict with one of the most important people in his life?
Totally.
So that was first and foremost. And it took me a while to figure out my place, because he had a mother, and I was very clear. I started to get very clear on how precious, sensitive, and I had to learn how to respect her position as his mother. That wasn't my place to try to step into his life as like a mother figure.
Totally, yeah.
I had to, so with Trey, it started off as a friendship, right? And so just looking at myself as an adult friend and trying to look towards his father and his mother to see how I could be an assistance to them in raising him, while also developing my own friendship with Trey to get to know him and see what he was asking of me, versus me trying to dictate to him what I was here to be in his life.
Yeah, right.
To always let him know that I'm as committed to him. You know, he's not my biological child, but he's my baby too, you know?
Jada, in reading your memoir, one of the themes that sort of stood out to me was honestly like the very intense degree of misogyny that you've been subjected to, and how you seem to have handled that with a lot of grace. And I have like a couple of things that I want to explore with that, but one is sort of actually the fallout of what happened at the Oscars, if you're comfortable sharing about that. In your book, you say, "The vitriol in the coming days did come faster and more furious than I'd predicted. Blaming the woman is nothing new, and I was clear on that. It was easy to spin the story of how the perfect Hollywood megastar had fallen to his demise because of his imperfect wife." And I'm wondering, even though that is nothing new, I can't imagine how painful it must have been for you to go through that. And in your book, you share there's like additional context of what was happening in your home life that people didn't know, that made it even more ironic that you would be the recipient of the blame. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit of that context, and then also what you've learned about like shielding your heart from bitterness. Because I feel like if I went through something like that, I would feel so bitter and so angry because it's so unfair. So that's what I was like thinking about as I was reading. Yeah.
You know, I think because, I mean, and I talk about it in the book, but I think because when I decided to allow that false narrative, you know, about me being an adulteress in the first place, which was not true, and having to deal with all that came with that, I think that was preparation for the Oscars. And even before that, when I in the Wild Banshee chapter, when I decided to, you know, try my hand at metal, I had my metal band, Wicked Wisdom. Having to deal with all of that prepared me for, you know what I mean? It's like getting death threats and being on stage, having things thrown at you, people talking shit. I mean, it was crazy. But the thing that I learned during my Wicked Wisdom days is that, you know, there's a story about these, when I think I was in Kentucky. I was either in Kentucky or Kansas, and I was in this club, and there were two young white kids in the club. These two young boys, they had to be like 17. And we're doing our set. And at one point, one of them, they both screamed like, you know, the N-word and put a bitch on the end of it. And the whole crowd stops and looks, and they're like, whoa, right? And I left I put a pin in that. We continue with the show. And every show I would go out into an area and sign autographs. And I remember seeing those two kids in the corner, and they kept staring. And I remember going, you want an autograph? You want a picture? And they came over and they got an autograph and they got a picture.
Wow.
And you know what that taught me? A lot of people out here just talking. A lot of people are dealing with their own levels of self-hatred. A lot of people are dealing with their own levels of self-judgment and just haven't reconciled with aspects of their life in a way that they feel like their outlet is to speak unkindly about other people.